Well, we're back again. And this is about the very beginning experiences of how you might see higher worlds, which I do believe is increasingly more possible every day based on the condition of the world, the sensitivity of things happening. And I urge you to consider a few basic things that I've learned. Now, just so you understand, everything that we're going to go through really is your responsibility to use your own feeling, your own logic, your own sense of right or wrong, your own conscience about whether you use or do not use any of this information. I'm not one who likes to edit somebody else's understanding or experience. I like to have my own experiences. I do like to use some of the knowledge that other people have put together, such as this chart behind me. I'll have a chart, by the way, like this, that I've constructed myself a little bit to use the same glands, organs, and body systems. All this is a spinal column behind me and all of the corresponding nerves that goes into glands, organs, body systems. Now, you might wonder why it's so significant to do something like this as a process of personal self-discovery. Because for me, personal self-discovery is the means by which we actually see higher worlds. Now, I've had multiple experiences of the higher worlds, and they're all completely different. And I've learned so much that I realized that I only know a little tiny bit. But there were some things about the higher worlds that were fairly consistent, and they're very unusual, and they became part of my own personal motivation to continue. So I'm encouraging you to, with whatever degree of emotional content you have, yes, seek the higher worlds as passionately as you can. And then along the way, who knows, there could be a little droplet of grace or a moment of inspiration or some tiny little mist-like experience of divine love. Who knows, when you have this aspiration to go to higher worlds. Now, I won't go into describing many of the things I've seen there, but some of them really surprised me. Buildings. Buildings of the architecture of which nothing on earth comes anywhere near or ever have been conceived of. Wow, you think the Sistine Chapel or someplace else looks beautiful? No, the buildings in the progressively higher functions of the higher worlds, they're very, very beautiful. No, we're not all wispy pieces of fog or smoke running around naked. Everyone I've seen in the higher worlds had clothing. No, it may not be, the same kind of clothing we have, but it was a garb or a robe or a fascinating combination of many colors, or, well, it was something of a projection of their spirit body, showing the contents of who they are and what they are, all scripted out. Oh, by the way, you can hide nothing in the higher worlds. You can keep no secrets, because everything that you are or you've experienced, every saturated memory of anything you've gone through is on display for everyone to see. Everything you've ever done that you thought was hidden and not seen is remembered by the higher world and projected out through colors that create your garment. Wow. Yes, to my utter amazement, trees, grass, flowers, mountains. Yes, that's what I've seen. Many other things too, some of them so unimaginable, I can't comprehend them. But there is one consistent thing that keeps happening every time I go there. I'm told to go back. No, this is not part of a near-death experience or a sequence like that. No, this is not a drug-induced state, or, well, it could be some delusional state, because that certainly exists at times too. These were experiences that are very hard to describe, and they have magnitudes of beauty that are unfathomable. So the experience of what I've gone through has taught me a series of things. In order to go there, I can have a glimpse if somebody helps me. If a higher spirit wants to help me have an experience, they can help me by loaning me some of their degree of love. And then I find out I can't stay there because I don't have that degree of love to sustain myself in that degree. I can't do it. The only way to do it, I'm being annoyingly told, is go home. This is not about leaving anywhere. Go home and then examine your motives for why you want to go there. Well, for me, it was a death wish, not wanting to deal with pain on my family, not wanting to be responsible, masculine bureaucracy. And I had a thing with government and religion and a few other things. And my desire was to leave by going to the higher world. Now, the challenge is once you see the higher world and you come back to this one, you realize this one's the joke. Well, not exactly a joke. It's not necessarily true. We're surrounded by shadows within shadows, and there's little tiny shadows behind a blade of grass and a bush and a tree and houses. Everything has a shadow. Where in the higher world, there is no shadow. Now, I must also tell you, the very, very beautiful places, well, I've gone the other places too. I can't say I've gone to the darkest of the dark, but I've seen some pretty dark places where there are no shadows because there's little or no light. Now, I'm a bit of an adventurer about these things, and for some strange reason, I have enough faith in the existence of my guide or guardians that they give me the experiences because I ask. But every time, whether it's in the dark or into the light, the story is come back. Occupy the full experience of your soul in the body. Very disappointing, by the way, to say, come back to the body. Why do I want to come back to something that I'm just going to pitch out when I'm on my way out of here? I'm kind of like Yahoo, and I'm leaving this junky old, difficult, pain-filled body behind, right? No. The body is a personal reflection of higher consciousness laws manifesting through my soul, and also now crystallizing my gland, organ, and body systems. So my entire body is a reflection of higher divine laws in operation, shining through the lens of my soul. Wow. So every minute thing in my body, in some way or another, is connected to the saturation of emotional memory inside me. By saturation, I mean something that I didn't comprehend before. Trying to make this easier for you. The soul records everything. If you have lunch with somebody at a restaurant, it knows exactly what each person wore, what they had to eat. It knows who's at the other tables. It knows everything about them, and you have all these triggered emotions. The soul has an emotional memory of everything you do and everything you think you didn't see and everything you wished you would have forgotten or been forgiven for. Everything is remembered. So that soul memory becomes a lens, and the consciousness of the higher degree shines through the lens. That lens, by the way, is constructed to the experience called your ego, which don't bash the poor ego. I mean, I used to bash the ego, get rid of it, beat it up, suppress it. No. Sorry, ego, sorry. The ego has a specific function. That is an instrument of duality, to keep your association separate from yourself or someone else, and or lots of other really cool things. So please, it needs to be trained, not abused. It needs to be treated like a sacred child that is gradually guided and disciplined to work on your behalf. If it's untrained, it runs away like a wild animal and can do all kinds of other crazy things that I wouldn't recommend that it does. So please just do your best not to like beat up your own ego. Train it, because it is a functional operation unit primarily associated with only operating through the senses, and it has certain limitations. When it tries to go beyond those limitations by projection is when there is some trouble. I urge you to experiment if you want with astral projection, leaving the body and other things, but hopefully your guides will keep bringing you back. I don't recommend that you do that, nor do I recommend that you do the most, well, nearly useless thing possible, is to surrender. The definition of surrender is yielding to a dominant force. The upper levels are not dominant. They don't have any desire at all to dominate you, because that's illegal. Nor can you surrender the responsibility to occupy the full totality of your own existence through your soul. You can't, here, take me. Sorry if I'm slightly cynical. I grew up in a fundamental Christian church, so permit me a moment of, save me, save me, save me, I surrender. Yeah, well, it'd be nice to be able to do some of those things with sincerity, because later on you might need to. But in the beginning sense, it's not necessary to try and surrender or beat up your own ego or surrender your own soul's operation, but you can invite very clear disseminating guidance to help you do certain things. So you don't have to rely on what I'm telling you. You can ask. Now, I would suggest, if you have had no experiences of higher levels, ask. Show me what exists. With a sincere desire to want to know the truth, ask for the divine level, by whatever concept you wish to call it, to show you that it exists and to help you gain the courage or the motivation or the faith to be able to continue. Now, enough of that. That's all on you. You can go do that. This is about some other elements of what do you do with all this according to what I'm suggesting you do. I'm suggesting that each one of these glands and organs and body systems, they're part of an architectural design, if you will, a genetic blueprint of your original pristine soul before it incarnated. So I'm saying the divine has an absolute memory of who you are authentically before you came into this world and occupied the experience of your mother's genetic influence and your father's genetic influence and their parents and grandparents. You're overlaid by countless forms of threads, belief systems, aspirations, pain, suffering functions that are all from your ancestry. But don't forget, you have a genetic blueprint of perfection. Okay? For now, just consider it as a theory, right? But now, do you want to occupy it? Well, part of that is to learn how to occupy your body. The danger is so much of what we do is pulled outside the body, right? So in this one, I gave you, before those who saw part one, you saw me describe here this, for example. These are red blood cells. So I challenge you to know more about them. I've had some very remarkable experiences inside the red blood cell, and I'm not going to give you all those experiences. Go have some of them yourself. But here is a very interesting principle. What you do to one, you do to all. So it's not necessary for you to focus on all the blood cells, and you might know that the estimates are, and I can only estimate based on what I hear about science says, is that you have roughly 25 trillion red blood cells. You are making, if you're young and vital, and that's not necessarily true in my case, you are making approximately 200 billion new red blood cells every day. Now, they can work on your behalf. My experience is the red blood cells are the bridge between spirit and matter. So the soul occupies the physical body by experiencing the red blood cells. Yes, later on we'll talk about the role of the breath in the relationship to the red blood cells, higher consciousness and lungs, but that's not today. This is a red blood cell moment. Now here's the fun part. 1. Focus on 1. Do your best not to put it outside you like this picture is. Put yourself inside it in a three-dimensional holographic way, meaning literally make yourself a very small person. Ask your divine guides to help you do this. And then you learn to go, if you will, if that's the picture, go to your right, enter, turn around, and feel the inside of the red blood cell with your own personal desire to want to feel and grow. Now remember, everything that you're doing is measured by the sincerity, the intent, the purpose, the passion, that eventually your sincere desire to experience the higher world has to be equal to the degree of love on that higher world, or it needs to be aided by somebody else, your guide or guardians or something else, because we don't have that degree of love to go into the second sphere because we're in the first, or lower if you're not around and just listening to me, go on. So we're in a place where it's important for you to be able to occupy your interior body. Now, I urge you to go online and get one of those very free apps about the anatomy of the human body. And they're just absolutely glorious. Back in the early 1980s, we didn't have anything like this. We had Gray's Anatomy, and they were just drawings and stick pictures and so on. And I used to get, the color photography of the interior of the nervous system and other things like this, because you do know the blood has a mother, right? Wait, you didn't know the blood has a mother. Well, whenever you want to know something, you go to somebody's wife or mother or both, right? Let me show you the mother of the blood. You ready? The bones. The mother of the blood is the bones. Now you see these perfectly white, beautiful places? Yes, they're alive. But remember, you want to do it from an interior perspective, not an outer perspective. If I'm showing it to you in a picture, you're seeing it outside. I don't want you to go outside. I'm encouraging you to go fully and totally more inside. Occupy your bones. Occupy your blood. Now, while there, you have to, ideally, you would ask for celebration of occupy this part of your soul, because the bones are a relative. Later on, you'll find there's a lot of will in these bones. It's a strong spine bone. You don't want to be boneless or spineless because you'd be something like a jellyfish, which I've tried jellyfish before too, and there's some good things about jellyfish, but not necessarily in the bones. You can go inside the bones and breathe. Now remember, the law of one. If you do one tiny spot accurately with the right degree of feeling over a period of time, it is going to be transmitted to all of them. So if you practice one single blood cell and you do it really well, eventually whatever you did with purpose and passion inside that one red blood cell is going to be distributed and multiplied by the number of, how many were there again? I never knew. 25 trillion blood cells? Yikes! Wow, 25 trillion. And then they say there's, like 350 trillion other cells, and they are not even sure and can't calculate the number of life forms inside your body. Not just the ones on your skin and hair, which there are trillions of those too. Not just the ones in your digestive tract or come out your poop. I mean, they live inside your cells. Oh, by the way, if you see the mitochondria, you tell her I remember who she is and I'm coming after her. No, I'm just teasing. I spent months focused on the mitochondria because the mitochondria is the mother of all metabolic energy and consumes photons of light and or radiation to create cool things. One at a time. Now I'm going to save you some trouble of calculating. I found the most effective things take about 4 months. If I practice one red blood cell, one function of the bone, not at the same time, 4 months, I typically have experiences. Now, this length of time may be different for you if you've practiced things, you know the body, you're a massage therapist and you've done anatomy, you're a scientist and or you've done body chemistry, yada, yada, or you're just one of those people who've done gallons of ayahuasca and mushrooms and you've seen the upper worlds, which, by the way, you can go there, but I don't necessarily recommend it. It has limits. You can have experiences in about 4 months, depending on the degree to which the sincerity, the purpose, and the passion. Now, here's the challenge. The relative height or magnitude of your experience is determined by the sincerity and the emotional conviction, the courage, the aspiration, and the personal desire that you want to do this for. Your personal passion's measured, and it's accumulated in these locations. And these locations, by the way, will remember the amount of time and personal dedication that you put into a single nerve cell. If you've never seen the spinal cord unfolded inside the spine and look at all the nerves, you can get one of these anatomy programs. It'll show you only the nervous system. Very cool. Or only the lymphatic system or the respiratory or certain. I mean, wow, there's so much new information available for you that was never available for me. I have to do it all myself. I had to cut all those books up and take pictures and put them on the wall. Never mind. You have an app. You can open up your spleen and take a look at your spleen. I've had a whole new relationship with the spleen lately because I didn't know that all the blood goes to the spleen first to be cleaned. Wow. So I'm saying occupy your body. So you may ask, why occupy your body? Because you're actually building a sincere desire to cooperate with the divine laws about your own soul. You're not just occupying matter for the purpose of staying alive in the body. That's okay too. You can learn how to be able to increase the flow of life in this particular location. You can do that. You can learn how to use personal feeling, aspiration. You can use your love of truth. You can use your authenticity. You can use courage. You can even use some degrees of teamwork, because you can use the understanding of how your ancestry influences you. Because part of this is to be able to take what is good from your ancestors that was truly part of the divine principle for your own authentic blueprint of soul. You want to be able to use the ones that came from them that are part of your constitution, but then you have to learn to do what spleen does, is filter the dead. Later on, we'll talk about each organ of the body and what its underlying emotional purpose is that I know of. And by the way, I don't know them all. I only know a few of them, but I'll give you month by month a map about how to do this. And you can just choose for yourself if you want to occupy that. But I'm suggesting that one of the things that I learned was, go home and get a job. Oh, go home and grow up, which meant I was trying to escape because of my lack of emotional maturity. I wanted, like an abandoned, hurt child, to run away from the abuse in my childhood. So I was going to go, losing the opportunity for soul-based maturation in the body. I'm looking forward to going. I'm a little terrified too, but I'm looking forward to going one day. But I'm also realizing the longer I stay here, there are emotional sensory experiences that are accentuated here that cannot be accentuated there. So by fully occupying your physical body, you can actually accelerate your emotional content in multiple infused ways. Because you have 12 different glands, organs, body systems, and you have different shapes of organs. The pancreas is very different than the liver, though they have a crossover relationship, and the thyroid, parathyroid, pineal, and pituitary. I'm suggesting that by the willingness to occupy them, you're already learning skill sets of the soul that you need later. So do them here. Do it with passion. Do it with purpose. Wake up alive to want to do it. But now, here's the warning. Sorry, there's always a caveat somewhere. The more passionately you do this, what's going to come is your law of attraction. So if you passionately want to know your bones and your blood, and they're corresponding to your father's mother and your father's father, fire and bone and blood, then you're going to experience the unnecessary parts of what was contributed by them that's unloving, and you're going to learn to see the difference between imagined and real, and you're going to eventually find out that your authentic blueprint of yours is that you need to have a desire to want to feel it, while knowing how to be able to experience and release those things that are not necessary for you to hold. No, you don't have to hold the belief system of all of your ancestors. You don't have to endure what was unloving about all the emotional, religious, physical, political things they did. But if you don't choose to be an individual, you are subjugated by their unresolved emotional energies coming down to you. Because your great-grandparents, their choices are rippling down through you, affecting your physical body, your emotional content, your attractions, your impulses, your facades, your addictions. But you don't need to take them on. So I'm suggesting one of the ways of doing that is to occupy the reality of your body with a pure emotional content that you want to be the blueprint of pure perfection that was originally designed by God for you to be. But part of that is the free will responsibility to clean what's not yours, and then get to the part that's going to be even harder than this, is to look at the part that you transmitted to other people. Yikes. It's easier to deal with your ancestry than it is to actually deal with the part of you that set in motion things that will damage your grandchildren and great-grandchildren or society around you, even if you have no children. So the passion to do all of this really depends on you. But what a wonderful journey. I can promise you those upper worlds are millions of times more beautiful than this place. Okay. I like nature here. I like the beauty. I like the ocean. I like the light. I like all of them. I have some favorites, some hummingbirds, butterflies, and a few other things, some squirrels, chipmunks, and deer, and those things. I like those too, but the upper world is vastly, vastly more beautiful. And I'm encouraging you to just touch it once. Because if you touch that place and you have an experience by divine grace or otherwise, you're going to be motivated for the rest of your life and beyond. But until then, consider accepting the responsibility to occupy yourself. Study what needs to be studied in anatomy. And then there's an interesting book I always liked, which was, The Web That Has No Weaver. It's about acupuncture. Just read the first 40 pages, leave the rest. The Web That Has No Weaver. It's about the circuitry of your meridians that connects your physical body to the next level of your etheric and astral and to your soul function. So consider it. I'll come back week by week, month by month, and help you examine these different glands, organs, and body systems. And then some of them are going to look a little bit like this. Lots of different radiation beauty of this, by the way, is just a abstract of a single drop of water bubble oil on top of a bubble. Never mind. It's just, then I like some of these because well, you know what that is anyway. This is the web that has no weaver. And then some of them looks like this that are strangely like things in outer space end up being very much the experience we have in the inner space. So as much as possible, I urge you to strengthen your passion to want to grow. No matter what you see around us right now in the world of conflict and separation, suffering, denial, cruelty, and all those other things, alien or not, build your passion to want to be alive. Build it. The only one who can build that passion is you. I'm suggesting one of the ways of doing that is to examine your inner anatomy. If it's not timely for you to do that, then examine something else. You may want to examine if it's more abstract or practical for you. This just happens to be the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the animal kingdom. So if you want to start on the outside and come inward, you can do that too. I have wonderful stories, by the way, about the mineral kingdom and the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom about how to have divine experiences relative to them as well. But I'm suggesting to start on the inside of your body first. One of the key places to go, and I know I gave you this before, one of my personal favorites, just happens to be where you were conceived. This is the fallopian. Yes, this is what it looks like. Is that a fire? Is that a flower? Part of your mother's body. If you're a woman, you have one of these. This is where you were conceived. Your genetic blueprint of divine perfection came in contact with your physical manifestation of your mother and father's DNA and the epigenetic DNA and the mitochondrial DNA. It all began right here. So I say, go inside and be alive. It's just a suggestion. You can do it or not. But if you're a little bit curious, keep coming back. I've got some wonderful stories to tell you. Bye for now.